All right.
Wonderful. Well, it looks like we've got folks rolling in. Hello, everyone. Happy start of fall. Happy Friday. Hopefully, we've got the chat enabled for you here and would love to see where you're coming from today. It's always awesome to connect all across the world. And I want to thank you for coming and taking the time to be together. Um, it's it's uh, it's quite a trying time globally, as we know. And Grace, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask you actually before this, but I'm wondering if you would mind if we just take a minute or two of silence before we begin to hold
Yeah,
space and
fine.
peace for all those that are suffering in the Middle East and all of those of us who feel very connected to what is going on there.
Yes, that'd be lovely. Thank you.
So as we join in here, just an invitation for all of us to join and taking a nice breath. May we continue to hold space for each other, for those suffering from the wars abroad, and guide our souls into compassionate and clear action. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. And thank you for practicing with us. Happy start of fall. It is October already in some places in the world, and certainly just beginning here for me in the southeast. The leaves are starting to change, and we're enjoying the turn of seasons, seasons as we know them, and seasons that are changing as we know them as well. And I'm so pleased to bring to our community today an incredible leader in healing in so many ways. Some of you may have experienced Grace before. For those of you who haven't, before we begin, I want to tell you a little bit about her. Grace Alvarez Sesma is a Mexican Yaqui cultural practitioner and educator who now has, for many decades actually, been providing Mexican and indigenous cultural services to individuals and families through her curanderismo healing practice. She not only works with people individually, but also in the workplace and with organizations. She is part of her work is to work with mental health therapists and other healthcare providers, where she provides an understanding of Mexican and indigenous culture specific interventions and encourages mutually respectful collaboration. And we're going to hear more about that during our hour. She has a consulting and private healing practice and collaborates with healthcare providers so that we can integrate allopathic medicine with traditional indigenous healing. She's an advisor to House of the Moon and the Kanapkuan Coalition. She serves on the Yaquis of Southern California Tribal Council, and we are so pleased to have her as part of the Consciousness and Healing Initiatives Practitioner Council. She also serves on the Academy of Integrative Health and Medicine on BIPOC committee and advises us also at CHI on EDIDI issues. Grace, it's such an honor to have you with us today to talk about such a beautiful topic. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you, Shamini. I really appreciate this opportunity to be in conversation with you because you always ask really great questions and are able to reframe some of my answers in a way that everyone can understand more clearly, because sometimes my passion for our medicine and our culture can get a little intense for some people. So I appreciate you so much and the work that you do in the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Likewise. Lots of mutual respect here, and I know a need to have critical and deep and sometimes intense conversations as we navigate the territory of how we celebrate and honor traditions and learn more about them. So I'm so pleased that you've chosen to speak with us a little bit about honoring our ancestors and educate us a bit more on Dia de los Muertos, or the Mexican Day of the Dead. Now, as an aside, I have to tell you all, we were just chatting, and Grace just mentioned that part of her role as a proponent of the culture from which she comes from is to educate people on the appropriateness of adopting rituals, language from different cultures, including, of course, her own. And it's a deep conversation as we explore all of the beautiful facets of healing and the ways to honor our healing traditions. Anyway, one of the things that she mentioned was she actually kind of was, it sounds like Grace in a way, guided by spirit to lead an unlikely charge, which was to explain to Disney that no, they really couldn't copyright or trademark Day of the Dead, which apparently they were going to do. So I am really just curious about that story, because I don't think most of us would even know that Disney tried to trademark Day of the Dead. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. Yeah, that was very audacious. This happened in 2013. And I was sitting at my desk in Colorado and looking at the news when I come across an article that Disney, in preparation for a movie that they were filming, was had filed a trademark application in the United States and in Mexico.
Wow.
And I was infuriated that they would think that they had the right to something that isn't even their culture to begin with, that they have obviously no understanding of the sacredness and importance of Dia de Muertos to those of us who are Mexican and indigenous, not just in Mexico, but throughout the Americas, who have a Dia de Muertos celebration of their own. And frankly, at first I just sort of, was angry, but didn't do anything. And within minutes, I really did feel the ancestors gathered behind me. And it was a gentle but very insistent prodding, if you will, that I had to do something. And, I think like, what can I do against Disney, this conglomerate? So the only thing I could think of to do was to have an online petition, to launch an online petition to stop Disney. And within minutes, I mean, it was flooded with signatures from people around the world, and of course, in particular here in the US and in Mexico. It hit the media, CNN, Los Angeles Times, Gustavo Arellano did an article, Nando Alcaraz did an amazing artwork. So it became a really momentous movement in just the space of a couple of hours. And I was contacted by a couple of attorneys in Mexico who heard of it, signed it, and they also started doing their own research in Mexico to legally stop the trademark in Mexico. And the reason why it was important for me, not just because Dia de Muertos is something that I just love, appreciate, venerate, if you will. This is one of the most special times of the year for me as a Yaqui and a Mexican indigenous woman, but also because that trademark would have prevented artisans, Mexican artisans, who this is their livelihood, depends on creating Dia de Muertos statues, foods, a whole spectrum. It would have affected a whole spectrum of our community, their livelihood. So I'm very happy, and I'm really glad that I followed that prompting of spirit once again to do my small part in protecting Dia de Muertos. And it continues to be something that is important to me, which is why I post about it on social media, my Facebook page, on my Instagram. And that's why I accepted your invitation to be in conversation with you, because I think it's really an important holiday for not just those of us from Mexico, but for people around the world that are drawn to this tradition, because they have been disconnected from their own roots. and their heart is hungry for ceremony. Their spirit, and I think their ancestors are calling them to return to their roots and find out how they themselves once honored and venerated their ancestors.
And you know what's interesting about this, as I was just exploring a little bit, I mean, I think many of us don't even know about similar holidays that exist in our own culture. I mean, honestly, Grace, it wasn't until recently I was chatting with my parents and they mentioned some particular days in the Jain tradition that are meant for honoring ancestors. And if you do a quick exploration, you'll see that this is the case for Buddhists, it's the case for Hindus, it's the case for so many traditions that we have these holy days of honoring our ancestors. And yet, as you know, because there is so much wonderful cultural influence and representation of the Mexican community here in the United States, at least, there is just sort of this let's party kind of idea around
Cinco
how
de Mayo meets Halloween.
yeah, so I think there is a lot of kind of demystifying that we need to do around what the holiday really is and how it's celebrated. And I'm so pleased that you're sharing that with us as we consider at the same time learning about this tradition, how each of us in our own traditions, whether we feel attached to a particular cultural tradition or not, can be inspired by and consider how we might want to move forward with a ritual for honoring our ancestors if that's something that we don't already do. So tell us a little bit more about Dia de los Muertos and the way that you see it, whether it's dispelling myths about it in terms of what you think popular culture is doing, or really what it's meant for you, since your childhood, growing up and having this day as part of your culture and your way of life since you've been little.
Yeah. So for me, every time that I put an altar up, or ofrenda, as we say, and sometimes, some years my altar may just be a candle and a picture, depending on where I am. And other times it's a little fancier. But it always reminds me of being a child in Mexicali and going to the cemeteries, cleaning the graves, lighting the candles, lighting copal, listening to the music, mariachis for days, just wandering the cemeteries are just full of light from all the candles. And the combination of hearing people weep with others who are quietly talking or laughing, and the smell of the foods, because there was vendors who were making food and selling food. It's like a comforting experience for me to know that while it seems that my parents have died or my grandparents have died, they are still alive in another dimension. They are still coming to me and to you to give us guidance, to help us as much as they can with our life. What I get concerned about, though, is that when I share that story and others like it, that what people hear is, oh, they're partying at the cemetery and they're painting their faces and they're drinking and it's a party. What they don't understand that it's a family reunion. And it is not a party like going to the bars, dressing up as La Catrina with a fancy hat and the Day of the Dead makeup. For us, we're celebrating the triumphs, the sacrifices, the silliness, the jokes, the just being family. And that is a far cry from how here in the United States, in the West, if you will, there is a tendency to commodify everything and to make everything into a caricature to make a few bucks. And that's where I have a real issue with people who don't know how to celebrate Dia de Muertos And unfortunately, I am seeing it even amongst other Native communities, casinos who are having Dia de Muertos parties and, best costume, and it's in a bar, and it's encouraging people to get drunk. It doesn't encourage people to learn and then celebrate and understand why it is that you're dressing up. What does that mean to you? What does it mean to your family? What does it mean to me as a Mexican indigenous woman to see you with you who are the dominant culture, taking my practices, taking the memories of my ancestors and making them yours. You are taking my story, my culture's story, and turning it into your story. How do you do that without understanding the harm that you are causing us? And that harm that started when the Europeans arrived the shores of Mexico, when Hernan Cortes from Spain arrived there and slaughtered millions of native peoples. That colonialism still exists today when we see people who take cultural practices and feel they're entitled to do that simply because of who they are, without respect, without any kindness or compassion. They just, it's just being taken. And yet our community is very generous. We have our own celebrations, our own cultural celebrations in our communities, and everybody's invited to come. And so I say to people who want to celebrate and have a party, come to our party. Here in San Diego at Chicano Park, there's beautiful processions that take place. Everybody brings a candle. They walk with an image of their loved one. They go to the park and we're there at an all-night vigil. And we still have food and we have music, all of that. And you're welcome to come because that's how you can learn. And that's how our communities intertwine and we begin to understand each other better. We know that grieving is not limited to one culture only, and that we carry our burdens much more gracefully when we have each other. And that's what I want to happen with our tradition of Dia de Muertos. I want our communities to gather together so that we understand one another, that we support one another through the hard times and the fun times. And to me, this is part of Dia de Muertos, the blessing that brings to us.
It's so beautiful, and thank you for sharing all of that, your heart, your true feelings about the colonialist mentality and the commercial mentality, which we see is it's just so rampant everywhere. I mean, actually, when you were speaking, I started thinking about Christmas,
Yeah.
and what has happened, and how so many spiritual holidays from so many different cultural origins, they have this problem when you get a certain critical mass of people. Now, we don't see that as much in Jan holidays because there's a very small amount of Jans, right? So we don't necessarily see that in our practices don't always lend themselves to party, or even the idea of partying because, you don't party with a mupati. Anyway, that's a whole thing. But, it's first of all, I love that you extended an invitation that we're not saying that this is just for us and we shouldn't learn from each other. But if you want to learn, then come and learn. Don't take something that you don't understand and denigrate it in a way and so it makes me think about just in general our typical cultural way. I would say, I almost would want to say globally now because I think it's happening everywhere maybe, the spiritual materialism, right?
Yeah.
And just how, like you said, how can I make a buck off this?
Yeah.
how can I
That's
do
right.
it? And that's no offense to people who do make a living doing healing work. Many of us do, lots of people do, but there is an appropriate way to do it. And I really loved how you raised that this commodification aspect, this needing to commodify everything, dumbs down the understanding of these beautiful practices and the
Yes.
rituals. So tell us a little bit more about the ritual. I love the story that you painted for us of growing up and kind of the larger society and the culture, it's like I could just envision what it's like in, you know, in those cemeteries where people are honoring their dead with the candles and the vendors, and everyone's really all together. And so, you know, that sense of togetherness and the invitation to join the togetherness to do the practices properly is just beautiful. I think many people, you know, want to know, well, sometimes I see these elaborate altars, you know, you kind of make reference to that. Sometimes you have these elaborate altars, sometimes you just light a candle. What are the most important pieces in your view that you take from Dia de los Muertos in honoring your ancestors?
Oh boy. To me, the very basic quality that one brings to honoring our ancestors is the quality that I hope that we all embody when we're doing our healing work, when we're listening to a friend in their grief, or when they're sharing good news, is the love, right? Love for our family, love for how the ancestors, and I want to clarify, when I say ancestors, I mean our way back ancestors, our grandparents, but also when someone recently died, we say they've joined the ancestors, so they've become an ancestor. So like on my altar here, I have my sister who died at the age of 19. So when I'm placing their photographs, I am remembering certain things about each one of them, what they liked, what made them happy, what, like I have this little, looks like almost like a dreidel. I'm showing you a little close up. It looks like a little dreidel. But in
Mm.
our family, we used to always play this. The whole family played it.
Oh, how
And
cool.
spin it. It's sort of like a gambling game. But one of these is on my altar. I have a pack of cigarettes. You have to have, at least for me, incense, the candles, because we want the light to shine in the darkness. We want that light to bring them home. The light holds our prayers for them, that they be blessed wherever they are. I usually put a bottle of beer for my father. I prefer the brand Mexicali beer because he worked there for many years,
Oh.
and he supported our family that way. So I like to look for a bottle of Mexicali beer to have on my altar. Food, the favorite foods. Of course, flowers, they call the Aztec marigolds, should always be on the altar. And some people have flowers that are made from paper, which are also very traditional. So you often see that out there. Glass of water, a mirror, salt for purification. Some people put a little hand towel because it's believed that when they arrive, they're tired. They want to clean themselves up because they're coming to a family party and they're coming to the altar. So they have a little glass of water. Some people have a little wash bowl with water and the towel so they can rinse their spirit hands and clean up.
Hmm.
It's really important to have very fragrant, pungent flavors and smells, because that to them is their food. So the essence of the food that you provide to your family members is what is feeding them. So you do the best that you can. I know sometimes, especially right now, things are hard for many people. There's a pressure to spend a lot of money that one might not have. And we don't have to do that. We can place a bowl of beans, something that you would eat yourself this morning. I made coffee and put the coffee on my altar. I have a little cup, a little shot glass of tequila also, because
Mm.
that's what they like. And so I'll be changing that up, but usually every morning in our Yaqui tradition, Dia de Muertos actually began on October 1st. So for the whole month, we are honoring our ancestors, and I would put a cup of coffee there, maybe, a little goodie. My dad used to like pink snowballs.
Oh,
So
wow.
we always put a little pink snowball. So those are the things that I think are important. They're not fancy. It's what is meaningful to you. It is what you recalls good memories of that ancestor. So to me, the basics is the candle, incense, food, and of course the photographs. If you don't have photographs, you can write their name on a piece of paper and put it there, or you can just keep their name and their memory in your heart and say the prayers for them. So you welcome them to your home. Welcome here to this feast that is for you. And on November 3rd, you take down your altar and you also light incense, you light a candle, and you say farewell because you want to close your altar.
Mm. Wow, beautiful. Thank you for taking us through that. And how interesting that it used to begin kind of more formally in the beginning of October and go for a month. You know, in the Hindu tradition, our time is called Pitru Praksha, and it's 15 days. And it's really interesting because it always seems to happen, and it's of course by design, right before Navratri. So we're about to enter the celebrations of the goddess starting tomorrow.
Oh,
And this is actually the last day of Pitru Paksha, which I didn't plan, when we were having this conversation. But I find it interesting that there is a lot of correspondence among our traditions and even in the timing. And so for us, it's important that, Jains often celebrate Hindu holidays in similar ways. So there's anyway, that's a whole thing. We don't have to go over that. But what's interesting is that it comes before Navratri. And so in the Hindu tradition, they actually don't want you to have weddings or any other kinds of things happening during this time of honoring the ancestors. And now I know that for some of us, we still may have questions about the relationship of Halloween with Dia de los Muertos. And then, as you mentioned, at least even if you're not celebrating for a month, honoring your ancestors, you have that solid day. So can you help us understand a little bit of the timing of these things?
Well, originally, the timing of these high holy days for the people of Central America, of Central Mexico, specifically the Mexica, more people know them probably as Aztecs and Maya, they actually celebrated for 40 days. So it would take around the time around August. So there was two huge celebrations. One 20-day celebration was for the children. It was the feast for the revered dead. And then after that was another 20 days, and that was for the adults. So this tradition has very profound roots in pre-contact, pre-invasion times. And the celebrations were incredible from what I've read, very elaborate, and again, very communal. So we still have kept that part of it. However, because of, again, colonization and the forced conversion of our people to Catholicism, in particular, Christianity and Catholicism, it eventually had to merge and became part of the Catholic holy days of All Saints' Day. Those of us who have roots in our indigenous customs and communities celebrate very distinctly than people who are only Catholic. That's why Dia de Muertos, you see that blending, you see the skulls, you see the skeletons. There's a social justice aspect to Dia de Muertos with La Catrina. She was a social justice warrior. She spoke out through her creator, Posada, against poverty, against commodification, against forced assimilation, against people who tried to pretend to be someone they weren't. So there's so many really amazing details to this holiday, which is why I say you need to learn about it before you try and do it.
Yeah.
So today, most people celebrate November 1st and 2nd. But for those of us, again, with indigenous roots, we usually celebrate it way before that. And our altars go up usually minimum of 2 weeks before November 1st. And again, these customs are different depending on your tribal roots, on the region that your ancestors came from in Mexico. So there'll be differences. Some people, they start on October 27th, which is when you put a white candle on your altar in honor of our pets, in honor of,
Oh,
all of our furry and feathered friends who have been a part of our family. And it's also, to me, Dia de Muertos, a way that we cultivate compassion for people we don't even know. So on the 27th, for some people, that is a day that you would light a candle and put a glass of water for people who died without family to remember them, who died alone.
oh,
And there's different days leading up to November 1st, and each one has its significance. And I'll probably talk about it at the webinar on the 21st.
how
So there's
amazing.
details
Yes.
of that, because I
Yeah.
do think it's a really beautiful way to teach your children compassion. So it's not all about you. It's not all about, your friends. It's about those who died without family, those who died crossing the border, trying to find a better place because they were actually following ancient routes trade routes to come to this site, because often, our tribal nations went back and forth.
Right.
So you may, have a special candle and special food for them to remember those who no one remembers. Nobody remembers their name anymore. There's no photograph anywhere for them. That's a way to cultivate compassion.
Wow,
So
that's really
there's
beautiful.
such beautiful lessons of Dia de Muertos, that the more I research it, the more that I expand my knowledge from just my family knowledge. I am just amazed at the incredible wisdom that this tradition holds for us. Yeah, that to me, these are the lessons that teach us how to live well. Dia de Muerto teaches us how to be good ancestors. Good ancestors, not just for those to whom we are related by blood, but good ancestors for those who are coming after us, who we will never know, who are not part of our Mexican community or indigenous community or American community, but for all of us, including the ocean, including the earth, including the trees, the stones, everything that creates life. So these are the life lessons, part of the life lessons that Dia de Muertos has to share with us.
Very beautiful.
Art.
So beautiful and so generous of you to share the depth and the richness of the traditions and the meaning. So many things that I've learned just in this, very brief conversation. And yeah, you mentioned the workshop you're going to be doing, and I want to make sure people know about that. Jason, if you are listening too, if you want to throw the info in the chat for people, that would be great. Grace, tell us a little bit about this, because I know that we're just starting to scratch the surface of this beautiful tradition, the richness, and how we can align with practices for honoring our ancestors. So I know you're going to be doing a workshop with the Consciousness and Healing Initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about that and what to expect? It's going to be next week. I
Yes.
think Jason's just put it in the chat if anyone wants
Okay.
to check it out.
Great.
Love never
Yeah.
dies. Yes.
Yes. And that's something that's a saying that I grew up with, and that probably, if you're Mexican and on this call, el amor nunca muere. Love never dies. As long as someone remembers us, as long as someone lights incense for us, as long as someone says a prayer in the heart for us, love never dies. And Dia de Muertos, to me, that's what it embodies. El amor nunca muere. Because everything that we do from the place of love, of healing, of honoring those who came before us, but also we're beginning to honor those who are coming after us. On the webinar, I'm going to be talking about in more depth about some of the things that I spoke about earlier. But I'll have some handouts also that I'll give to people who participate. I'm going to be talking about how to set up the altar. Of course, I'm going to be going into the roots of Dia de Muertos, because to me it is really important that you acknowledge the source. That when if you talk to somebody or you have an altar because you still haven't had the chance to research your own ancestral lineage, you can say to someone, I am doing this because I learned how to do this in a good way. I do this out of respect for the Mexican people, the people of Mexico, who are generously allowing us to participate in a humble way and to honor our ancestors using their practices. That's my prayer, that when you come to this webinar, that you will leave not just because you'll know what La Catrina means, or because you know that Dia de Muertos has been named a Mexican intangible inheritance of humanity,
Wow.
but because you genuinely have respect and that you make that commitment to align yourself with us and with our community's needs, so that it's not just about taking Dia de Muertos, but it's also entering into a reciprocal relationship with us, with the community, that you will stand with us when there are issues that come up for our community that are important to us. When the children were being separated from families a few years ago at the border, and breastfeeding moms were removed from their babies, that's when I would expect our allies to come and stand with us. If you are taking our traditions as your own, then that means you are related to us now. So what are you going to do to show that relationship, to honor that relationship? Don't just take, become a part of our community in a good way. We're going to talk about how to set up your altar, your ofrenda, what days, what to place on it, what plants you can use if you're European and not indigenous to smudge yourself. Because I don't want you, I'm going to call it a smoke cleansing. I don't want to use the word smudging, because that word is very definitively a practice of Native American. So if you're not indigenous, your practice would be smoke cleansing. You might use dried rosemary. So I'll talk about some of those plants that you can use for yourself.
Great.
Talk about the elements, and more importantly, I think, or not more importantly, but as importantly, I really hope that we will have time for Q&A.
Yes.
Because I think people have a lot of questions about what to put on there. And I think that they place a lot of pressure on themselves to do things just right, which I want to put a little bit of pressure on you, but not so much that you lose the joy of participating in this tradition.
Yeah, so
Because,
understanding the structure and then being able to flow with
yes,
it in a authentic way, but a way that's rooted in the traditions and rooted in a deeper understanding than you might glean just scouring the web or something like
yeah,
that. And I want to encourage everyone to come to this. And yes, it will be recorded. So whether you're able to attend live, which we encourage you to do, because there's nothing like being able to be in the presence of the living teacher. This not only supports Grace and the wonderful work that she does with this workshop. We've kept the ticket prices low by design. As you all know, we are a social profit 501c3. So we're not out to make a killing at these things, but we want to make sure that people do feel resourced with incredible teachers like Grace, who are offering their time quite generously. This webinar, for example, is a free offering of her time. The workshop is a way to at least provide some modest amount of reciprocity and support to her as a teacher. But more than that, you are going to be able to get real personalized connection with her, with live discussion and Q&A and practices. So, and of course you will get the recording, which you can have, for yourself for however long you would like it, which is a really wonderful gift that our team, kind of puts together behind the scenes to make all of this wonderful stuff happen. Grace, I know you mentioned too, you wanted to give us a sense of a practice today, so we can kind of deepen our relationship with this work, with our ancestors. Would you like to lead us in a practice like this?
Yes, so I thank you for this opportunity to lead this meditation. And this meditation I have called Sholo. And Sholo is the sacred, hairless black dog that we see in surviving codices and surviving oral traditions. That is very special during Dia de Muertos. He is our guide, our companion. So I've called this meditation and named it after Sholo. So if you want to join me, make yourself comfortable. I'm going to light a little bit of sage here because to me, part of this is connecting with our roots, connecting with the, wish you could smell it, the fragrance of the incense, the fragrance of the smoke. So let's take a deep breath together. Invite you to close your eyes. Let's take a deep and gentle breath and feel your energy begin to calm and center you. Feel the energy flow into your hips, traveling down into your feet. You feel present, relaxed, yet grounded. And so we call upon the love, the wisdom, and the protection of our Creator, the grandmothers and grandfathers of the four directions, our most high and holy guides, and all the good doctor spirits in nature to surround us with the protection in this realm and all others. And we thank them for helping us as we enter into this space, guiding our breath in and out. Your spirit finds itself standing alongside the bank of a wide and serene river. The river is deep and flows gently. Looking around, you notice the fragrance of beautiful flowers, shrubs, plants. The grass smells beautiful. Everywhere you look in this sacred place, there is beauty. Feel your feet sink into the earth. Feel your heart open and blossom like these flowers as it responds to the beautiful feeling of this place. Feel safe and your mind is clear and your spirit joyful. You feel an inner prompting to walk along the riverbank. Ahead, you see a quiet, gentle, handsome black dog. This is Sholo, who has been waiting patiently for you. You stoop and pet him, feeling his love, seeing his intelligent eyes looking at you. You realize he's your protector. You notice he has a cotton string around his neck. So you take hold of that string, and together you walk a short distance until you get to a small meadow ringed with tall, ancient trees. Sholot leads you to the center of the meadow, right in the center of this beautiful circle where you sit together. As you gaze around, you look down at yourself, and you are realizing now that you are wearing beautiful ceremonial clothing. From the four directions, four holy beings step into the circle. Take a moment to bow. Take a moment to breathe and thank them for being there with you. The spirit of the East steps forward and shares the gift of advice and guidance that is unique to you, that will help you start a new beginning in your life, something that you've been wanting to do, and we're needing support, needing guidance. Shares a feather. Notice what kind of feather, what it looks like, how it feels. That feather is going to help you and support you, remind you of this place and this advice. Spirit of the East steps back, and the Spirit of the West steps forward to bless you and help you to release all fear and outdated beliefs and ways of living that no longer support your path. The Spirit of the West gives you a new dream, a dream that the advice from all of these four holy beings will help you bring to fruition. Next, the Spirit of the North gives you the gift of a beautiful mirror. Look at that mirror, see yourself, see your beautiful face. This mirror will help you to remember your true nature, who you are. The Spirit of the North will help you so that this mirror increasingly is brighter and clearer. This Spirit is helping you to remember who you truly are and to remember the wisdom of your most high and holy healed ancestors. Take a deep breath as you accept this gift. The Spirit of the South brings you another beautiful gift. This gift is water. The Spirit of the South holds this vessel filled with sacred water and pours it over you and through you. The water is clear and pure and fills you with vitality. It fills you with gentle, compassionate, loving power. The power that creates a life that is in alignment with your soul's sacred purpose. You cup your hands and you get some of the water and you drink it. This water will continue to bless your body, your mind, and your spirit, even after the spirits of the East, the West, the North, and the South leave your space. Place your hand over your heart and breathe in deeply all of these gifts. Breathe in and accept the wisdom, the guidance that you have received. This guidance is only for you. Do your best to remember. If you don't, be assured that the spirits will come to you in your dreams or in a way that you will hear them and understand them and will guide you to a life filled with beauty, with understanding of the lessons and the blessings that this earth walk is bringing you. In this sacred circle, you recognize that you are connected to every being, every place in this earth. All the actions that we take reverberate across the cosmos and bless each other. Take a deep breath. Slowly, when you're ready, open your eyes. Open and close your hands a few times. Wiggle your fingers, rotate your ankles, and press your feet into the floor. Feel yourself totally back in your body, totally in your space, fully, wholly integrated, centered, and at peace. We thank Xolo, the ancestors, and all those who have preserved this tradition so that we can be blessed by it and we can be a blessing to others for all our relations.
Wow. How beautiful. Thank you so much. That was so profound. Really, really powerful. It's so interesting, Grace, because now it's like I can smell the incense here. I'm sitting near where my altar is actually. And before we did this practice, it wasn't the smell of incense was not in my attention. And now I can smell it so strongly. I did not light any, right? But it's here. So it's like it's coming to me, even though I didn't light it, which is quite amazing. Yeah.
That happens sometimes. Other people have mentioned that to me, and I am grateful for the ancestors who bring that medicine to you and others. And I hope that those of you who are listening receive some blessing in that way, that will open your heart to receiving, to truly receiving and bringing all of these blessings into your heart so that you and your family can benefit from them.
Yes, thank you so much. And we do have we have a few minutes, just a couple of minutes. If there are any burning questions here, those of you who are joining us here on Zoom, you'll see at the bottom of your screen is a Q&A button, and you can click it if you have a question for Grace, either about what she's presented here today, our practice that we just did, the upcoming workshop that she will be doing on the 21st. All of this is very welcome. We're getting a lot of gratitude here in the chat from everyone. Lots of thanks. Yes.
So someone asked if I could repeat the name of our dog companion. His name is Xolotl. Xolotl. Xototl. It's in the Aztec language, in the Mexica language, that is called Nahuatl.
Beautiful. I'm putting
And
it
I'll
in.
expand on that at the webinar because he has a very important role in Dia de Muertos and in our life and death journey.
Beautiful. That's so beautiful. Oh, we have a question here. Just a thank you, actually, just saying, Judy wants to share with you, very moving. Thank you for your teachings. Yes, indeed, very much. Oh, let's see if there's another one here. No, this is the same one. So wonderful. There is a question that I see in chat around the appropriateness of so Shelley asks specifically, I'll just repeat her question. If we attend, I'm assuming the workshop, and receive a replay, would we have permission to show it to our families, or do we have to buy a ticket for each person who views?
That's up to you, Shamini.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, well, and I would leave it up to Grace, but what I would say is I think you should attend. I think you should engage. And if this is something that you feel like would be useful to share with your families, whether to share the replay or to just share with your families, you can always consider a donation as well in gratitude, to Grace herself personally. And we'll put her website in the chat. Those of you who want to just learn more from Grace generally, you'll have an opportunity to do that. And of course, we are a 501c3 social profit organization who believes in sustainability through reciprocity. So I do want to mention also that those of you who have signed up as Chi contributors, thank you so much for doing that. for a nominal gift for the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, which is $108 a year or $9 a month. You receive all replays of all webinars, including this beautiful one with Grace in perpetuity. We have a wonderful kind of Chi contributor portal, which you can access freely, and you get discounts to workshops, including Grace's and others that are coming up. So there are many ways to engage in reciprocity. Here, Jason has just put in Grace's website. I will say that I highly recommend that if you feel called to come to the workshop next week and learn more from Grace, it's really a tremendous opportunity. She does not do these often at all, and she's quite picky about the platforms or the audiences that she connects to be able to share the work for all the reasons that she's described above. So we're very grateful that you've entrusted us and our community, Grace, to share these sacred offerings more broadly with the community. It's definitely our pleasure and honor to host you, to share this more broadly so that we can all benefit from the wisdom in the appropriate ways.
Thank you, Shamini, and thank you everyone for being open, to hearing what I share, because I know that sometimes what I share may be difficult to hear. But I really feel that if you're on this call, that the ancestors are calling you. Your ancestors are calling you. And the webinar is also a call for you to learn your own traditional lineage.
The workshop, yes, next week.
Yeah, the webinar next week, yeah. And this one too, I guess. I really do feel that the ancestors are calling us all back. I think that there is a common root in all of our indigenous traditions. If you're indigenous to Europe, if you're indigenous to Ireland, to Africa, to China, there's the common root of wisdom. These are wisdom traditions. And I think that that's the wisdom that connects us to the earth, to the elements, to each other, that we need and that we see that is needed. We see today with what is going on in the world, we need to have a deeper sense of connection to our own ancestors and to each other. When we are rooted in our culture, I believe that helps us have confidence, and that helps us do our work from a place of love and compassion and kindness, acceptance, appreciation for each other. And when we can reach that mutual place of connection, that's when we can exchange honorably with each other. That's when there's no longer cultural appropriation, because it is a mutual, equal exchange of culture, of practices. There is no unequal power dynamics. And that's what I aspire to be a part of. And I hope that you aspire to that and that you will go along this path with me as we do that together for the benefit of future generations.
Thank you, Grace. So beautifully put. And yes, just a procedural question here. Yes, if you register there, you will receive a link, a Zoom link to put in your calendar so that you can easily click just like you did today and join. And we're going to set it up so that for those of us who want to share our faces, we can see each other and interact also in that way. Well, Grace, you've been so generous with your time, your wisdom, your presence today. I want to thank you so much for being part of the Consciousness and Healing Initiative, guiding our efforts as you do on the Healing Practitioner Council, and sharing your light and wisdom with all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Blessings to all.
Have a wonderful weekend, everybody. Thanks for joining us.